Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and to submit extraneous material into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. It's hard to say where to start, but perhaps I will simply augment what we just heard from my Democratic colleagues. Example after example of the crazy, uncoordinated attack on Americans that we're now seeing from the current administration. As we hear those stories, the reality of the programs that are not moving forward, the reversal of critical programs to protect individuals in their health care, protect individuals in their daily lives as they travel, to protect Americans now and in the future as we address the issues of climate change and the enormous challenges. Much more will be said about that in the days ahead, and it definitely should be. But I want to rise today and deal with a positive message that compares how Democrats would address the challenges of our time versus what our president and his Doge minions are doing, and our Republican colleagues here in the House are attempting to do with their budget reconciliation proposal and soon their individual tax policies and other. So I rise today as House Republicans are moving forward with their budget scheme that literally betrays the working men and women of America, all because they want to put forward and carry forward the 2017 tax program that they rammed through this House without a single hearing, a program that created trillions and trillions of dollars of deficit and did little to enhance the American economy. We see the Trump trifecta in action. Trump and Musk, with the backing of timid Republicans, have traumatized federal employees. They have purged the military of competent, experienced leaders, and they have usurped congressional, constitutional power of the purse and power of the law by dissolving programs such as USAID, which is authorized by law, and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, and many, many other government agencies. Now, instead of reclaiming the constitutional power of Congress, our Republican colleagues are now pushing forward their budget that will make working families sicker and less healthy and hungry, all the while giving $3.5 trillion in lower taxes, in tax breaks, to their billionaire donor friends and corporations, and in the process, skyrocketing the national deficit and apparently betraying their own long-held view that deficit financing was bad. Now, the Democrats have a different vision. It's based on what Franklin Roosevelt said many years ago. He said, "The test of our progress is not whether we give more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little." It is our intention to create a level playing field upon which every American can advance and prosper. The Republicans are doing neither of these. Worse yet, they will provide nothing for those who have little and give everything to those who already have so very, very much. The Roosevelt test is once again before us, and Republicans are failing at that test. They intend to cut Medicare while making health care for the Americans more expensive. They intend to cut student loan relief programs, cut Pell Grants that are crucial for keeping not only students in schools, but schools open all across communities of America, particularly low-income communities. They will make our children go hungry by slashing school lunch programs and even school breakfast programs. They will cut SNAP programs, a life-saving program that feeds millions of Americans and provides support to farmers. They will make our roads less safe by cutting critical infrastructure. They will cut services that maintain our national forests and our national parks. As you heard, firefighters being laid off or not even being hired for the summer fire season. And our national parks, who will be there? Well, apparently they don't much care that those people necessary that are providing the summer programs for the national parks. They will give $3.5 trillion in tax breaks to the super wealthy and to corporations that have yet, the very large corporations who often pay no taxes at all. And they will, in all of this, add trillions to our national debt. Democrats have a different vision, a vision rooted in fairness, rooted in the words of Franklin Roosevelt. We believe that every American deserves a good quality of life, a shot at success, a vision of a level playing field on which they can prosper, that they have the support to rise as far as they could and as far as they would want. That's why we're here today, to highlight our vision and to show that the American people that there is a disconnect between what the Republicans want and are actually doing and what American families really need. Here are some of those policies that the congressional Democrats would bring to the floor if we had 4 more members in our caucus. Democrats will support working families. The first thing we will do to support working families is to expand the child tax credit. Ranking Member Rosa DeLaura's American Family Act will cut child poverty in half and provide critical relief for middle-class and low-income families by providing a $6,000 refundable tax credit to help families with the high costs of a child's first year of life. Democrats will lower the cost of goods and services for Americans. We would include in our budget, if we had those 4 additional Democrats, provisions to protect American families from price gouging. It's unacceptable that American corporations continue to exploit the crisis and leave working families with the bill. Democrats will establish a federal ban on price gouging, and we will hold those corporations accountable. Democrats will build and expand on the $35 insulin cap, which incidentally, a price cap that Trump removed. The skyrocketing price of this life-saving drug for every American must be reinstituted, and it must be expanded. Democrats will expand the $2,000 out-of-pocket prescription drug cap for all Americans. And Democrats will lower housing costs by expanding the affordable housing programs, the low-income housing tax credit, and strengthening access to housing using, well, a bill that I've introduced called the HOME Act, which will increase housing availability. Democrats will raise workers' salaries and wages. The third provision that we would include in our budget is the PRO Act. The PRO Act protects the right for working men and women to organize, ensuring that workers have the power to negotiate for fair wages and benefits. As a member of the Labor Caucus, I know the importance of collective bargaining and protecting unions. Collective bargaining is the fairest possible way for workers to earn the money that they deserve for the work that they have performed. We will also push forward the Raise the Wage Act to gradually bring the federal minimum wage in line with the economic reality of American workers. Now, Democrats will also defend Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We will do this with legislation such as Representative John Lawson's Social Security 2100 Act, which will increase benefits while ensuring that the super wealthy pay their fair share and secure this critical program for future generations. The House Republican budget scheme endorsed by our president and designed to help the super wealthy and the billionaire buddies like Elon Musk will cut Social Security benefits and Medicare and Medicaid benefits. In my district alone, the Republican proposal will gut Medicaid for 250,000 of my constituents. And they will also go after Social Security benefits for those in need. In my district, 89,163 children will lose their health care based upon the budget proposal that the Republicans are pursuing. Republicans will also cut $1 trillion out of Medicaid, and that will gut health care services for millions of seniors, for pregnant women, and for children with disabilities. Now, the Democrats will defend our borders, and we will do this with wise legislation, comprehensive reform. Unfortunately, last year, a congressional bipartisan proposal in the Senate to pass historic immigration reform was killed by the current president, who was not then in office. And he called upon the Republicans to stop, do not proceed. And they didn't. And that left us with the current crisis. Now, we have a proposal. Congresswoman Linda Sanchez's U.S. Citizenship Act will modernize our immigration laws, strengthen our economy, and provide for a responsible approach to border management, family reunification, and for the necessary workers that we need. We will do better, and we will deliver actual results that solve problems, not create additional problems. Democrats will pay for all of this by making sure that we have a fair, equitable tax system in which the super wealthy and the billionaires will pay their fair shares. We will not go down the path that our Republican friends intend to go, and that is to extend the 2017 tax cut law that actually provided more than 85% of the trillions of dollars of benefit of lower taxes that go to the super wealthy and the billionaire class. We're not going to go that direction. The super wealthy and the billionaires should not have a continuation of that tax cut. We will also take a look at the cut to corporate taxes that was in that legislation. A tax rate of 28% was on the docket for many years until 2017. And even today, if we were to go back to that, it's much lower than it was prior to that time. And we will not raise taxes on any family earning less than $400,000. We will restore the long-term capital gains rate to 28%, which is actually lower than the previous rates. We have much work ahead of us, and we intend to see that it gets done. Let me be clear. As you heard from my colleagues here earlier, the work that the Doge boys are doing, and women are doing, is a break-it policy that Elon Musk has brought to the government. He has no business. He has no authority, or does he? In the morning, we hear from the White House, he has no authority. In the afternoon, we hear that he does. But either way, what he is doing is dead wrong. We know from the past that there is waste, fraud, and abuse out there, and we know how to do it. It has been done in a wise, thoughtful way, understanding what that organization, what its purpose is, and then looking for a way to make it more efficient and effective. I did this myself when I was Deputy Secretary in the Clinton administration at the Department of Interior. We were told by the President and the Vice President that it was time for reform, and we set about to do it. In the Department of Interior alone, we had just over 100,000 employees at the National Park, the Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Geological Survey, Indian Affairs, and others. We looked at those programs, and we said it can be done better. And in the end result, we reduced employment by 10,000, 10% reduction. We made the department more efficient and more effective. That's the way it can be done. That's the way it should be done. But wholesale reductions, firings, as you heard from my colleagues early on, make no sense at all. The contrast between what we Democrats have done and will do is clear. We know the Republicans are set off on a course to further enrich those who have much and to exactly go the opposite direction of what Franklin Delano Roosevelt said. It's not our goal to enrich those who have much, but rather to provide for those who have little. We will create a level playing field upon which every American will have an opportunity to rise and thrive to whatever level they want, with a solid education program, with a solid economy, and with an opportunity to join with others to raise their future. It's our moment. It's our moment to push back and to stand up for working families. We will put people over politics, and this is our moment to build an economy that works for everyone, not just for a few. Joining me today in this discussion are several members of our Democratic caucus. And I'd now like to yield to a new member of our caucus, a gentleman from Orange County who understands these issues and will now share with us his thoughts. I welcome to the floor Derek Tran of California.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I am honored to announce that the first bill I will introduce as a member of Congress is the Protect Veteran Jobs Act. The men and women who serve our country deserve our unwavering support, not broken promises. The indiscriminate firing of veterans by the Trump administration and Elon Musk's Doge dishonors the unwavering commitment that these public servants have dedicated to our country. These heroes stepped up for us, and now we must stand up for them. This issue is deeply personal to me. I am the son of Vietnamese refugees who fled war and persecution in search of safety and a better life in America. This country welcomed them and gave me the chance to succeed. I joined the Army out of a sense of duty to my country because I wanted to give back to the country that gave me so much. I wanted to protect the very principles of freedom, justice, and decency that we hold dear. But I don't see those values in the actions by the Trump administration. I see only division, fear, and cruelty. I have a duty as a congressman, as a veteran, and as a proud American to stand up for those who made the highest commitment to us. It is my honor to introduce the Protect Veteran Jobs Act to reinstate veterans who were recklessly terminated under the Trump administration's dishonorable purge of the federal workplace and hold the executive branch accountable for any future terminations that may occur. This isn't about politics. This is about basic decency. Veterans make up 30% of the federal workplace, and when they are justly removed, it impacts all of us. From delays in healthcare and disability claims to staffing shortages at the VA, the consequences are dire. Veterans have our backs, and we must have theirs. I hope my colleagues would join me in supporting this important bill. Veterans gave everything for us. It's time we give back to them. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tran, for bringing the message to the House about what the current administration is doing, harming veterans, and I want to thank you for your service, both in the military and in your work in Orange County, and also for bringing to this floor and to this House your experience and this legislation. Hopefully, the majority will see the wisdom of it and make it law. I'd like now to bring to the floor Representative Julie Johnson of Texas. Please join us, and we're looking forward to your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my colleague from California, Mr. Garamendi, for hosting this special order hour on this very important topic. Last night, 217 Republicans voted to gut Texas Medicaid, raise costs, and take away health care from over 100,000 of my constituents, including over 80,000 children and over 12,000 seniors, just in my district. I love my state, but there are so many great things about Texas, but unfortunately, we are number one in some of the worst ways. Texas leads the nation in the number of people without health insurance for children and adults. We lead the nation in maternal mortality, having the highest number of mothers die during childbirth, and we lead the nation in infant mortality. Over 4.8 million Texans currently rely on Medicaid, over 16% of our state. These are not just statistics to gloss over, but they are children, their moms, their seniors, and our loved ones in our nursing homes. The Republican-endorsed cuts will exacerbate Texas's health care crisis, creating irresponsible political-based policy instead of collaborating for real solutions. In addition to the loss of health care access, many of those still with coverage will see their costs skyrocket. Under the Republican budget they voted for just last night, the average premium for 103,000 people who receive coverage under the Affordable Care Act in my district will increase by 69%. Their premium will increase by 69% because of what the Republicans have done in this budget. Many families would face an even steeper consequences. In Texas 32, a 6-year-old couple with a household income of $85,000 would see their health insurance premiums increase by $13,000 a year. That's a 181% increase in just 1 year. Families cannot afford that. Now look, I am all for cutting waste and finding fraud and abuse and finding fraud, but taking away health care and making it unaffordable for the people of Texas is not the way to do it. Texas Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security programs must be protected. They represent our commitment to the American people, that their government will be there to help them when they're at their most vulnerable. The fact is, these cuts will mean life-altering changes for the families across America. We will lead to nursing homes being closed, doctors refusing to care for patients, healthcare claims being denied, and more debt and increased costs on the backs of families who are already struggling to make ends meet. I'll ask this question to my Republican colleagues. Are you ready to take in your aging parents to care for them when your local nursing home comes? Are you ready to move your dining room table out and bring in a hospital bed because there's not a long-term care facility to take care of them? We have already lost 27 rural hospitals in Texas because of lack of adequate Medicaid funding. It takes some people in our state 3 to 4 hours just to get to a cardiologist after they have a heart attack, and you know what? They're dead. This has real consequences for people when we don't have adequate health care. This should not be a partisan issue. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. When your mom is sick, you want them to have health care. When your baby breaks their arm, you want them to have health care. This is a universal human issue. And it is irresponsible what the Republicans have done in this budget. I'm proud to stand with my Democratic colleagues as we fight against these devastating cuts. And I encourage my Republican colleagues to join us because their constituents want health care too. Everyone does. I'm committed to finding ways to improve health care and make it more reliable and affordable. That is what Texas families want. That is what the American people want. Thank you so much, and I yield back.
So very much. Just a question, if I might.
Of course.
Talk a little bit about where your district is and we know the nature of it, but the geography of it.
Sure, I'm Julie Johnson. I represent Texas 32. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and it is an urban district with a lot of the suburban areas. We have access to great hospital care there. However, we still have healthcare deserts. We have people that can't afford health insurance at the current skyrocketing prices that they are. They can't afford, we have very high housing costs. We have people with very high student loan debt. If you're a 32-year-old and you're trying to live the American dream and you're trying to buy your first house and afford your student loan, you can't do it all. But even worse, you know what the minimum wage is in Texas? $7.75 an hour. You're trying to do the best you can. You're working at the grocery store. You're doing things that make our economy run. You're working in retail, but you're making $7.75 an hour. You can't afford health insurance that costs you $24,000 a year when you don't even make that. And that's the problem with where we are.
I am certainly pleased that I gave you an opportunity to expand. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like now to bring to the floor our new representative from the state of Oregon, Maxine Dexter.
Oh, I'm great here. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity for my colleague from California, Mr. Garamendi, and Mr. Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity. I rise today to join my Democratic colleagues in voicing our unwavering commitment to protecting the vital programs that Americans rely on, prioritizing the working families that I represent over millionaires and billionaires. Last night, I stood with every single Democrat in this House to vote against a devastating budget advanced by House Republicans to enrich the ultra-wealthy at the expense of our working families. I grew up in a working-class family. I'm the first and only person still to have gone to college and graduated in my family. A union job offered me the opportunity at 16 to pay my way with rent and food costs in the city of Seattle, and then to go to college. There is absolutely no way that anyone in my district can do that on a part-time job at an entry-level grocery store position. House Republicans, their plan is to pay for $4.5 trillion, with a T, in tax giveaways for the Elon Musks of the world to gut the programs that allow Oregonians to afford health care, put food on the table, and keep a roof over their heads. As a physician, I know that access to health care is literally a matter of life and death. I am terrified about what it means for my district, where 200,000 people are at risk of losing their health care. Many of them are children, disabled members of our community, and our seniors. And they will have to go without Medicaid services. Now, don't get me wrong, it does not say anywhere in that budget resolution that health care and Medicaid is going to get cut, but make no mistake, $880 billion in tax cuts cannot be done any other way. In the days leading up to this vote, I received heart-wrenching call after heart-wrenching call from constituents desperate for an answer as to why the Trump-Musk administration is pursuing this agenda of cruel chaos and how they will survive it. To each of those Oregonians who called, please know that no matter the odds, I will use every tool at my disposal with my colleagues to expose this great betrayal for what it is. I will stop at nothing to safeguard the programs that you rely on, and I will call on my Republican colleagues to have courage in this moment of great need for their communities as well. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much. If I might, a little quality, please. Your experience before you came here, you were a physician?
Yes.
And what was your practice?
I'm a pulmonologist, meaning I take care of people with lung disease, and a critical care physician, people who are on life support in our intensive care units.
And you did this in the district in which you now represent, which is what part of Oregon?
It's Oregon's 3rd congressional district, which is Portland to the beautiful Mount Hood, emblematic of our state.
Your experience is going to be invaluable as we work through these very difficult period of time. I want to thank you for bringing the message to the floor and to the American people. It's very, very important that they understand the depth and the trauma that the proposed budget will create and the alternative that you put forward. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'd like now to welcome to the floor my colleague from California, Laura Friedman. I happen to know where she is from, so I won't ask her, although she should certainly tell all of us about her district and about her vision. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Congressman Garamendi, for organizing this special order today. I'm Laura Friedman, and I represent the 30th Congressional District in Los Angeles, a district that has been really undergone a terrible tragedy with fires, for which we are very much hoping for the kind of support from the federal government that so many other regions have received unconditionally after natural disasters. Last night, I stood on this House floor, united with every single House Democrat, to stand in opposition of the Republicans' slash-and-burn budget scheme that will take critical programs away from hardworking Americans that so many of us rely on, particularly in these difficult times. Now, was this done by the Republicans out of a sense of fiscal responsibility? Well, I have got to say no, because it's not fiscally responsible to take money away from Americans just to provide a $4.5 trillion tax break to the richest 1% of this country and to large corporations who weren't even asking for a tax break. Now, let's be clear, this slash-and-burn budget is an attack on our families, on seniors, veterans, and on children. It's a direct attack on Medicaid, meaning that fewer families will have access to affordable health care at a time when health care access is so out of reach for Americans. It's an attack on SNAP food benefits, leaving millions struggling to put food on the table. It's an attack on Head Start, robbing children of the most critical early education opportunities that will lift young people out of poverty. It's even an attack on the tax credit and on many other programs that help our young people afford a higher education. That'll make it harder for the next generation to afford college. That will also have the effect of stifling innovation, weakening Americans' ability to lead by staying on the cutting edge of technology. Now, in California, we very much value our public education system. We have Silicon Valley, we have the entertainment industry, we have huge biotech industries. Those are all fueled by the education that our UC system provides and our private colleges. But because of this budget, so many young people who today are able to achieve that education and power our economy in California, which powers the United States economy, just makes us have a brain drain that will keep us from being competitive with other nations. Why is this happening? It's just to pad the pockets of the wealthiest Americans, the same people who don't need another handout. Trump's tax proposals will give the richest 0.1% an average tax break of more than $300,000. Think about that, $300,000. And what do Californians and Americans across the nation get a return? What do ordinary people get? They get higher costs. They get worse services as we lay off public employees. The same people who answer the phone if you need to help a veteran get services or help yourself get Social Security or need to access Medicaid, the people who answer those phones being laid off. That will make lives harder for our families. In fact, on average, families making less than $157,000 a year are going to see their taxes increase by more than $1,500. That's higher taxes on more than 265 million Americans. Instead of making life more affordable, this is going to make it harder for people to get by. So for all the talking that Republicans do about cutting the deficit with more than $4.5 trillion in tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy, this is an upside-down approach that will still manage to increase and blow up the debt by almost $3 trillion. That is not responsible governing. That is not fiscal responsibility. It's slashing critical programs, raising taxes on the majority of Americans, and handing out checks to the top 1%. It's a betrayal of the American people. I am now, and I will always be, a big fat hell no on this slash and burn Republican budget. Democrats stand united against raising costs on American families, and I will continue to fight for an economy that puts hardworking families first and that will invest in the kind of educational opportunities that will truly make our nation great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Friedman. If you don't mind, perhaps we could have a short dialogue here.
Sure.
You raised the issue of education. If our goal is, as I said earlier with the Roosevelt quote, that our task is to do for those who have little, it really begins with education. If we have a good, solid education program, then people will have the ability to get on a level playing field and to move to wherever they may want to go in terms of their quality of life, as well as whatever income they might achieve.
Right.
You were talking earlier about the education cuts. If you would like to expand on that, perhaps the two of us or you alone can bring to this floor the devastating cuts that are being discussed with the termination of the Department of Education.
Absolutely. So I'm a mom, and I have an 11-year-old, and one of the most important things to me is to make sure that my daughter has access to the highest quality education possible so that she can achieve as much as she's capable of. That starts right at kindergarten and goes all the way up to wherever she wants to go, whether that is through high school, onto a trade school, or whether it's to higher education. All of us want to know that if our child can get into a college, that we can afford to send them there. And so many Americans worry, can I pay for my child's education? So many people in my district and other districts worry whether or not their child's getting quality education at their public schools. I was at a school this week that has Head Start, where a majority of their children are taking advantage of Head Start because they are low income. And in fact, in the particular school in my district I toured, they also educate children with disabilities, children who are blind, children who have autism. And Head Start is what supports a lot of that. And the Department of Education is tasked with making sure that we have an equitable distribution of resources around the country, and that if a child is facing any kind of discrimination in their school, if they're not able to access Head Start, if they're not able to access programs because of their disability, that the Department of Ed is there to make sure that they get what they deserve, what their taxpayers are taxpaying parents are paying for. Without that, there's no guarantee that this money gets to these young children.
There are also very important programs at the higher education level.
That's right. And I'll tell you, I've spoken to a lot of our universities that have seen either the programs that they use to deliver scholarships to children who couldn't otherwise go to college be frozen and certainly threatened by this budget. In addition, one of the great benefits of our universities is the research that they do. The research that powers our economy, that gives us the next generation of inventors and gives us the inventions that have led to the internet, that have led to a lot of what we do with the space program, that lead to advancements in clean energy. All of those are being piloted through our universities. They have seen their funding frozen, absolutely frozen. And even though a federal judge told the Trump administration that that was illegal and has started those payments again, they're unsure whether that money is going to continue because clearly the administration's goal is to end the funding for that kind of R&D that is done at every university. That's part of our kids' education and part of the production of the United States of America, the things that we are proud of coming out of our national labs, coming out of our universities. So the benefits are for education, but they're also to power our economy through the inventions that the American mind has been able to create. Why would we stop that? Why would we stop the very engine of our advancement in the world, the thing that makes us the #1 nation on earth? Why would we want to cut the funding off for that? It doesn't make any sense. And people that are undergoing programs now that even have seen some funding coming back can't even reach the NIH, who administers these grants, because of a gag order from this administration. So there are so many threats through this budget and through this administration to college, to your kids' ability to access higher education, and to the very institutions that make up our collegiate system in the United States.
Thank you so very much for bringing that to all of our attention. Earlier today, I met with the Chancellor of the University of California, Berkeley, and we discussed much of what you just brought to our attention. The research that has been undertaken at UC Berkeley has in this year, the previous year, 2024, created 1,618 new small businesses directly as a result of the research and the effort that the university is making to nurture these startup businesses. These are the businesses of the future that are using the research that you very correctly brought to our attention that is being cut. That research has led to innovation, to new technologies, and to new solutions. Perhaps you'd like to expand on that.
Yeah, so I'm also, besides being a mom, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And after I was diagnosed, I found out that one of the treatments that has been a revolution in terms of saving the lives of women suffering from breast cancer was developed, I believe, at UCLA. So many of our medical advancements come through the R&D that is done at our universities. That is funding that right now was frozen and funding that is under direct threat. So for those of us who care about the health and the well-being of our families, it's not just about Medicaid, even though that's important. It's also about the treatments of the future that have already shown so much progress for the United States to be able to sell treatments around the world, but to cure diseases like cancer, to treat heart disease, to help with longevity. Those come through our universities as well, through partnerships that they have with private industry. So we're talking a huge section of our economy that not only drives us in terms of jobs and making life more affordable, but it literally keeps us alive. That's all right now on the chopping block in the Republican budget.
It's very, you get down into the details here. The research programs, some are stopped, some will not be refunded, will not go forward. But it appears as though the proposal that the administration, or the policy that they're pursuing, is to limit the money that the university uses to build the facilities, to provide the equipment, I believe 15%, it's about a 50% cut from the current funding. The result of that would seem to be, well, certainly that isn't direct, but it is. It's the foundation upon which that research, it's the hospital, it's the laboratories that are being used by multiple researchers. And so I would draw the attention of the House to beware of this proposal that is actually being implemented now to reduce the total research money that is available for the foundation upon which the individual researchers carry out their research. The bottom line of this is that America's progress really comes in 5 different ways. And this has been something I've been working on for many years, and it's first, the best education system in the world, as you put forward in your comments. Absolutely fundamental. You got a good education, you got a chance. And if our society has well-educated children, then there will be advancements. Secondly, research. Research is tomorrow's economy. And we've seen this through the years, and certainly have been one of the critical elements of California's success in building the 4th or 5th biggest economy in the world. Secondly, infrastructure. Infrastructure comes in many ways. It is the facilities that the researchers use at the universities. It's the roads, the streets, the sewer systems, and the like. I suspect that in the Republican budget proposal, there will be reductions in critical research, particularly in the research, but also in the infrastructure, and particularly in that portion of the infrastructure that allows us to deal with the critical issue of climate change. Which brings me to that issue and the infrastructure needed to address that. That's electrical systems, there's grid systems, and the like. And we also need to make sure that in this process, we not only pay attention to those elements, but we also pay attention to the international situation that's out there. And we compete internationally. Now, the solution that the President is proposing is that we're going to protect ourselves with tariffs. If you're interested in keeping the cost to individuals down, then don't go to tariffs. There is a need for balance here, and tariffs have a role, no doubt about it. But the use of tariffs as being proposed by the President will raise costs and will not enhance, because the other elements that we need, well-educated society, infrastructure, and access to research, will not be available. So we have a complex situation out in front of us. I thank you so very, very much for joining us today and for bringing to all of us the issues that you're concerned with in your district and with your family.
Thank you,
Thank you so much for joining us. We are now near the end of this special order hour. I noticed that my Republican colleagues hopefully have been listening carefully and have learned and would not continue to pursue policies that are detrimental to the progress of our nation. And also, I would hope that you would keep in mind Franklin Delano Roosevelt's words. The test of our progress is not whether we give more to those who have much, but rather we provide for those who have little. And I would add to that that we create a level playing field, that we pursue policies that create that level playing field, that provide access to education, that provide the necessary support for families who are in need. We can do better. Mr. Speaker, I yield back.